unbeaten Cuban heavyweight contender Luis Ortiz, aka the real King Kong, has called out Wladimir Klitschko. I'm going to quote Luis Ortiz directly here. He says, "Hey Klitschko, I'm ready for you. Don't postpone your date because I'm ready to hand you an ass whooping in October." And Ortiz's manager, Jay Jimenez, I'm going to quote him here as well. He says, "King Kong is ready for Klitschko. He is next in line and we are ready for any of the top heavyweights. Line them up and watch King Kong career killer Ortiz KO them all." So those were the words of Jay Jimenez in the second quote there. So yeah, he wants to be the replacement for Tyson Fury, basically. We assume, and maybe it is a bit premature or, maybe a bit hasty to assume this, but we assume that Wladimir Klitschko will be the person who the WBA and WBO allow to fight for the vacant belts if they strip Tyson Fury. We assume, or I assume, that he is guaranteed a shot at those belts, right? It might not be the case, but that's what I'm going to assume at the moment because he did have a rematch clause in place to face Tyson Fury. And since Fury isn't capable for whatever reason, it only seems fair that Wladimir should be given a shot at both those vacant belts. However, when it comes to who's going to face him, I think it's going to come down to the person that has the most political clout. Yeah? And when I talk about political clout, I mean, I'm not talking about, Congress or whatever in the United States or Parliament in any other country. I'm talking about political clout within the world of boxing, who has the most sway with the governing bodies. And Luis Ortiz is with a small promotional outfit, as far as I'm aware, they're small, called Dade Promotions. As far as I know, he's not signed to Al Heyman. He's not with, anybody major in the boxing game. And I think that's who he would need in order to make this particular fight happen. So I'm not too hopeful for Luis Ortiz's chances in getting this fight. I did talk about this as a potential fight in one of my recent videos. I said I'd like to see it. And I think Luis Ortiz is definitely a worthy replacement for Tyson Fury to face Wladimir Klitschko for those vacant belts. He's already very highly ranked in the WBA. So at the very least, perhaps he could face Klitschko for the WBA belt. We'll have to wait and find out, but I can't see it happening. Yeah, I think that there are going to be so many fighters out there who are lobbying the WBA and WBO who do have powerful promoters and advisors behind them. I can't see any of those guys being, beaten to the punch by Luis Ortiz, metaphorically speaking. Yeah, although I would like to see it. If the fight was to take place, wow, fantastic. Who would you guys pick in that particular fight? Would you be picking Luis Ortiz? Ortiz kind of is the dark horse of the heavyweight division. He's the guy who all the hardcore boxing fans have a lot of respect for, and they want to see him get an opportunity before he gets too old. And even the fighters themselves, people like Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora, and many other fighters have said that Luis Ortiz is seriously dangerous. So he has this kind of dark horse reputation, and I'd love to see him in there with a Klitschko or one of the top level guys just to see exactly how good he is. He's looked very good so far. The way he took out Bryant Jennings, I mean, Jennings went 12 rounds with Klitschko in the fight before. And Klitschko never even came close to dropping him, never mind knocking him out. Whereas Luis Ortiz dropped him several times or hurt him several times and dropped him and beat him in brutal fashion. So, yeah, I'd definitely like to see the fight. I doubt it will happen. Who will be the person that gets to fight Wladimir Klitschko for Tyson Fury's vacant belts if that actually happens? I think that if Joshua is serious, right, if Hernan and Joshua are serious, I think that they might actually be able to get that fight for the vacant WBA and WBO. I think Wilder would also have a good chance if he wanted to try and go that route. He'd have a good chance. I'm not saying they're deserving of fighting for those vacant belts, but I think they would have a good chance because they've got powerful promotional entities behind them, or in Wilder's case with Al Heyman, advisory entities, quote unquote. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this particular situation. Ortiz calling out Klitschko. And he has to keep calling everybody out. You know, he's called Joshua out, he's called Klitschko out, he's called Deontay Wilder out. And now that the belts are becoming fragmented, it increases Luis Ortiz's chances of getting a title shot. So we shall see what happens. Drop your comments in the comment section below, people. Let me know how you feel about this particular story. And as I say, who do you think would win out of Wladimir Klitschko and Luis Ortiz at this point? Yeah? And actually, a lot of it may depend on where the fight takes place, because one of Wladimir Klitschko's big weapons in the ring really is his holding and leaning. He uses that to shut down his opponent's inside game and also to wear them out. And he does hold and lean excessively in a lot of fights, particularly when he's against an aggressive opponent. And because he has mainly based himself in his adopted home of Germany, where everything is in his favor, that's very well documented. Everything's in his favor in Germany, and the referees turn a blind eye to the flagrant indiscretions that he commits within a boxing ring. The excessive holding, the excessive leaning, and it really is excessive. It's not within the bounds of what's acceptable. It's totally excessive. When he fights outside of Germany, the referees actually penalize him for the excessive holding, like when he fought Jennings in America. And you saw against Jennings, he was nowhere near as effective as he is when he fights in the United States. Jennings, who's not really a big inside fighter, certainly not a big puncher, he was able to get on the inside against Wladimir, and because he wasn't being leaned on all the time, because the referee warned Wladimir for that, Jennings was able to keep his energy about him, get off punches and all that type of stuff. So if Klitschko versus Ortiz was to happen in the United States, because it may end up going to a purse bid, we don't know where the fight would be. It may end up being in the UK, it may end up, being God knows where. If it did go to a purse bid, you have to imagine that K2 are going to put up more money than Dade Promotions. But then again, a separate entity could come in, because when a purse bid situation happens, another promoter could come in. Al Heyman could come in, even though hasn't signed Ortiz as far as I know, or Warriors Boxing, whatever promotional entity Al Heyman wants to use at the time, they could come in and make a bid. Eddie Hearn could make a bid. Anybody could make a bid for the fight. So if it happened in America, theoretically, Klitschko against Ortiz anytime soon, I think it would increase Ortiz's chances of winning by quite a margin. And I'd probably pick him actually if the fight took place in America or on neutral territory anywhere that was outside of Germany. Anywhere where Klitschko's not going to have his own way in terms of officiating and refereeing and all that, I would pick Ortiz. But if it's in Germany, you still have to favour Klitschko because he's going to be able to do his thing. And it's not like Klitschko is going to totally win the fight only by holding. No, he's got a lot of fantastic tools at his disposal. A great jab, great right hand, physically strong, good balance, good speed for a big man. He's got a lot of plus points. Excuse me. So, yeah, but it just so happens that the holding, and I think he'd need to use that a lot against Ortiz, is a big part of his game when he's dealing with aggressive opponents. And if Ortiz got on the inside against Wladimir and Wladimir wasn't allowed to hold, man, I don't like Vladimir's chances. I really don't. Ortiz is big enough where I think he could shrug Wladimir off and get enough space to get his uppercuts and his hooks and those very dangerous shots that he likes to throw on the inside off. So, I don't know. Anyway, let me not talk too much about this. Let me hear from you guys. You drop your comments in the comment section below. All right? It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.